Hi there, Sandy here. Welcome to another polymer clay video at keepsakecrafts.net. Today we're going to try a little bit of polymer clay embroidery. This is a fun technique that's been around for a while. I've seen many gorgeous examples of it, and it's actually a lot easier than you might think. I have seen so many examples online of polymer clay faux embroidery. It's goes by a lot of names. Yeah, you can do it on beads, but I'm going to do today's project in a purchased bezel. I'm sure you can find something similar. You can also do this on a bead. You can make a flat cabochon. It's good to have a domed surface though, as it helps you get the technique right. So the first thing you want to do is grab a scrap of paper and take your bezel and a pencil and just trace out your bezel so that you have a place to start planning your design. You can just start sketching in. What do you want? Flowers, vines. Because this is such a small scale, it really helps to have this worked out first. You don't have to follow this exactly, but it gives you an idea of where you're going. And I've actually already done this on this side. I sketched out three. This one with flowers and a butterfly, this one that's very symmetrical, which I actually don't love, and then this one, which you can see I did here. So we're going to work on this one, but you'll learn the techniques. You can apply them to anything you want, really. First thing you need to do is choose your background color. I mixed up, I think, 1 part wasabi with maybe a little bit more than 1 part white to get this kind of soft, bright spring green. And you just want to roll your clay. You want to grab a little bit more than you think will fit in the bezel. And roll it into a nice smooth ball, getting rid of any creases. And then just kind of start to generally shape it so that it will fit into the bezel. And then just kind of mash it in there. And then it really depends on the shape you have, just what you're going to do to get that nice rounded form. One thing I'm doing is I'm taking my blade and kind of pushing the clay away from the edges of the bezel. I want to see those in the end. So it's kind of, and then to smooth it all, this is patty paper. It's like used for when you're making hamburgers to freeze. And it's really great stuff. You can kind of use this to smooth and burnish. So take a little bit of time and get your cab really nice and beautifully smooth. It does take a little bit of time, but be patient. That was one of the things I noticed when I was looking at all of the polymer clay faux embroidery online, was that they all had these gorgeous, pristine, smooth bases, and that really enhanced the look. Now I'm going to just move on here, but on my other ones, on my finished ones, I took a bit more time and really got it nice and rounded. Now if you're using a light colored clay, you may see some schmutz on your clay, and you can actually take that off by using rubbing alcohol. And if you can find it, the 91% is great. It works fantastic. And you don't need much, like the smallest possible amount that you can splash into a little container. Is that half a teaspoon, if that? Now what this actually does is it actually dissolves the clay, and it will help get you a nice, beautiful, smooth finish. I have a little bit of tissue here. Take my brush, gonna just let the excess drip off the side, and then start wiping down. And if you have little bits of fuzz, you'll see those dissolve and come off, and when they do, wipe your brush on the tissue. You can see there's the clay, the green smear. That means you really are dissolving some of the clay. But you want to wipe it off here and then dip it back in. Otherwise, you may redeposit those little bits of fiber and whatever they are that so like to hang out on our clay. And so you just keep doing this until you have, whoops, see, I keep doing that. I keep forgetting and dabbing it back in the container. You really want to wipe it off on the tissue first, then dab it back into the container. And if you have to use a lot and it gets on the edge, you can just wipe that off. And again, like with the shaping, take your time and really get it nice and beautiful and smooth. This will help wipe away fingerprints. You can smooth out small blemishes. Again, I'm not going to take the time right now. I did it on my other pieces, but you really want to take your time with this and make it very nice. And then because that's alcohol, it won't take long at all to evaporate, and you can move on to decorating. So to help you with your decorating, grab your pattern and another piece of tracing paper or deli paper or whatever, and just lay it over your sketch. And go ahead and trace the outline, and then just trace the major elements. Like there's the center of the butterfly. I'm going to have a stalk of like lavender here. Here's a flower, and another one, and another one. And that's all I'm going to trace. If you're using a bezel, you're going to cut it out a little bit inside the line so that you're cutting off what would effectually be the bezel, because that's not going to be part of your design. I can lay this on here, and you may find you'll have to adjust a little because things will actually be positioned slightly differently because of the curve. And I'm just going to gently make some really tiny marks. I don't want to make many, and I don't want to make them big because you're going to have to cover them up. But I'll kind of mark that line and mark where the flowers go. And that just leaves you some guidelines. So you want to start with your stems, or you go, like for this one, I started with these viney things. And the easiest way to do that is to take your clay, and this is just some green clay. I think I swirled in some wasabi. You don't really see it, but it gives it a little bit more richness. And you just want to roll from that big piece, roll really, really, really tiny pieces, and leave it attached. It just gives you so much more control to leave it attached. So like I'm going to put down this stem for that flower. And you can see now I can easily maneuver it, kind of move it about, trying to cover those dots, but I can also cover them later with leaves if it's not right where I want it to be. Give that a little tap with a craft knife, and then that should cut without cutting your background. And this way you can roll them really, really thin and still be able to handle them without too much difficulty. Let me demonstrate for you the faux embroidery just with this little lump of scrap clay. And I'll use this bright green for contrast. So the easiest way to do it is to start out by rolling thin snakes, and then use your blade to cut lots of little pieces that are the same size. That's the best way to do it. And then I like to roll all my little balls, and then you'll have a pile of them, and then you can just start building your designs. Alright, so say we want to make a flower. You just really as easy as to put your pieces down first and then go back in and shape them. Now this is my favorite tool for doing it. It's a pick. I think I got a set of them at Harbor Freight. I'm going to hold this at an angle so you can see. I'm going to hold my tool at about a 45-degree angle to the surface. Press down and pull back. And that's it. Press down, pull back. And then I could add another layer of petals on top of those, since I ended up kind of wide and spread apart. So that's the look with a kind of skinny probe pick. Here's the look with a toothpick. And it's similar, but because it's wood, you get a little bit more drag, so you can actually pull it out a little bit further. This is a gum stimulator that I've made into a tool just with some polymer clay and some epoxy sculpt to hold it onto the handle, because this tool melts if you go put it in the oven, the little plastic stimulator. And this gives you kind of a different, kind of a softer look. You can see your little indent is a little bit softer and a little bit wider. And then this is a clay shaper. This is a silicone tool. And this will give you even a softer and wider look, as you can imagine. it flattens it out far more in the center. But for all of them, you can see the trick to making it look like embroidery is leaving that raised edge in the back. So there's lots of different ways that you can sculpt these using different tools. So you should really just experiment on your own, find what you like. And of course you can start out with not just little balls, you can roll them into just little ovals. You could roll it into a long oval. You could taper the ends and start out with a little bit of a rice or a football shape. And that would also give you a different kind of look for your piece. So I'm going to make kind of like a spiky little plant here. And what I've done to get a nice variation in colors is I've took a little piece of a blend, and then I'll just cut that into strips, nice skinny strips. And then I'm going to cut these into little pieces. I rolled all those little pieces into rice shapes. And I'm just going to start adding them in layers, starting at the top. Remember to have it at a 45-degree angle and leave that nice soft round at the outer edge. So I hope you've been inspired by my videos. Many of you have told me that you have. And if you have, I hope you'll consider becoming a patron. Not only do you get the satisfaction of knowing that you're keeping these tutorials coming for everybody, because, it does cost me money to buy the tools and the materials and everything, and of course it costs time to do it. But you will also get great rewards like chances to win some of my clay creations and my jewelry. I also do bonus tutorials and templates for my patrons and all kinds of fun stuff like that. And by the way, I wanted to let those of you who are my patrons or will become my patrons soon, I hope, I wanted to let you know that I will have these sketches available for you at my Patreon page. If you like these designs, you can just download them, print them, make them bigger, smaller, and use them as a jumping off place for your own creativity. Just a little extra for my patrons to say thank you. So you get the idea. This is how you would build something like this with a lot of really nice variegated color. It's hard to make these small enough. You think it's small enough, and then it ends up like, this little tiny crumb of clay ends up being twice as big as you need it to be. So let's see, these I'm going to roll out into slightly longer pieces. Oh boy, that clay is dirty. You would make yours beautifully clean. I took the time with my samples to make them nice and clean. Now you can leave it like that, or you could turn it into a narcissus just as easily. Ready? Oh, you have a narcissus. Or you could just kind of stipple it with your needle tool and give it a little texture. That just helps press it in place so you know it's not going to pop off. Let me show you also how to make some of the leaves. It's all pretty much a variation on the same theme. I'm just going to roll my green out a little thicker, but thinner than you think you might want, because we're going to use the tool to draw a line, and that will flatten it out and make it a little thicker. So I'll pop that down. Oops. Get out of there. And then one reason I like the metal tool for this especially is it's slick and it slides very nicely across the clay as I make these lines. And a lot of this will be covered up by other leaves underneath. In fact, here's mine that I made, and like this one, I actually trimmed it down here, because if I had left the thickness, it would have been very bulky by the time I had all these leaves converging at the bottom. And then one more thing I'll show you is how to do the butterfly. Oh yeah, and I did these partial flowers, and I just did 4 petals and then put a ball of green over them so they look like they're turned sideways. The butterfly is really cute, and it just consists of 4 little balls that I rolled into balls and then rolled into teardrops. Just kind of ever so slightly pointed one side. And then to shape it for the upper wing, since it's a little bit bigger, I actually pressed on it 3 times. And it kind of gave it a a ruffly look and gave it that texture that I thought was pretty. And then for the lower wings, I just did the one press, like with the petals. Sorry about that, my camera cut out on me. So just to finish up the butterfly, all you need to do is take a little bit of black and roll super, super thin pieces. You know, like when you're rolling out snakes and one end gets like thread-like and so thin and you can hardly manage it. Well, that's kind of what you want. You get just this really, really thin piece. And then you can put those on the butterfly, use a craft knife to cut off the excess, and add a slightly thicker one for the body. And that's that. So I hope you'll have fun and give these a try. Do keep in mind that after baking, these will usually pop right out of the bezels. You might want to sand away the shiny and then glue it in so it will be in there permanently. And you will then have some lovely springtime pendants in whatever designs and colors you want. So if you like this video, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe to see more like it. I upload videos every Tuesday and Friday. And if you're interested in the supplies I use, click on the little eye or the tag in the upper right of the video or the link in the description box to go to my blog post, where I always have a complete supply list with links to products. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and take a peek at my Patreon page for how you can get great rewards and help support these tutorials. Happy creating. Bye-bye.